We're live. Okay, it is 6:37 in the evening on June 22nd. I'm going to call the public hearing for the annual town meeting warrant and school budget to order. So this has been a little bit of an unusual process this year. For anyone who's been watching our meetings and our struggles as we've tried to figure out how to do these types of things, under the circumstances. And I guess I just want to reiterate, hey, there's Carolyn. Reiterate one more time that, there are no great solutions to any of this stuff. And we're all just doing the best we can. And we wish it wasn't this way. And unfortunately, it is this way. And so this is what we have right now. So. Last week at the Board of Selectmen meeting, we opened this public hearing for public comment. We're going to extend that a week past tonight to the 29th. Anyone that is interested to leave a comment about the referendum is welcome to do so, encouraged to do so. We have instructions, I believe, on the agenda. I saw send them to the town clerk's email, which is just clerk@newcastlemaine.us, and we will post them publicly, so everyone has a chance to see them. And tonight we're going to review the referendum first, I believe, and then as part of that, we'll go into the school budget. We've got Stephanie Nelson here with us, a representative from the Newcastle School Board. And Stephanie, when we get to it, I think I'll let you handle maybe that part. You could say some words, just sort of explaining the budget and the process. And nothing. We don't need to go crazy, but we do want to give people that are watching or that watch this later an opportunity to just sort of see if they hadn't been a part of the process before. We'll ask, maybe John can do a screen share so we can put it up on the screen as we kind of go through it. Normally what we do at town meeting, annual town meeting, is prior to the meeting, all the selectmen sort of choose a warrant article to discuss or be the sort of point person on if there are questions or comments during the annual town meeting. We're not really going to do that this time. We've done a lot of work to simplify the warrant so that when people receive their absentee ballot, or hopefully when they receive their absentee ballot, again, we're encouraging people to request those, or when they go to vote, you'll see all the warrant articles on the referendum. And so I think maybe the best thing to do, John, if you think it's all right, maybe throw that up now and we can give people a preview of the ballot. Do you have that? It was in the packet.
Yeah, it is. Bear with me just a moment. I'm trying to get the links up so everyone can see this tonight. So
great.
Bear with me just a moment.
No
I'm almost there.
Yeah, no problem. That's good. So I think that pretty much covers what we're doing tonight for the public hearing. So we'll go over that, and Stephanie will go over hers, and then we'll close out the public hearing and move into the Board of Selectmen's meeting for tonight. We have a small agenda, excuse me. And I guess that's pretty much it.
I'm ready if you are, Ben. You said that we want to look at the ballot. Is that right?
Well, I think maybe instead of, that might be the best thing to do. If you have it and you can just throw it up, people can sort of see it as a preview of what they're going to have. I guess I should say also that starting tomorrow, if you have requested an absentee ballot, ballots will start going out tomorrow, and will continue to go out until the day of voting. So if you haven't yet, please do request an absentee ballot. You can do that a number of ways. The easiest, I think, is right online through the Secretary of State's website. You can also contact the town clerk, town administrator, who will point you in the right direction or help you get to the right place in order to request that absentee ballot. So, and you can always leave a voicemail message, and someone will return your call if you have questions about how to do that, and they'll help guide you through the process. So
there's a link on our website underneath news and notices that says online absentee ballot. You have to click on the title once, brings you to the next page, and it says click here. If you click here, it brings you right to the state website to request.
perfect. Another way to get there. Okay. So this is the ballot that that everyone's going to see. Everyone that's requesting ballot, everyone's going to vote. We'll see. This is how we're doing town meeting this year, or not town meeting, but annual referendum. We've been over some of this before. John, do you want to walk through it? How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I think it's fairly self-explanatory somewhat. Obviously, this is the selectmen section. This is the section where we vote for a school committee member, and this is the new section here. I assume everyone can see my cursor as I'm turning it around as I say. You can see this. If you can, I'm glad to do so. But this is Article 3. This is the school committee's authorization. Again, in the past, we would have had this would have been the period of time where you would somehow endorse the action that would have taken place at a prior meeting. In this case, it's all in one. So all of these questions, this is when your opportunity to get your voice heard in terms of the various articles on the ballot. So just to walk through the whole ballot, if I could. Article 3 is the school committee recommendation. This is the secondary education budget for grades 9 through 12. So our students from 9 through 12 from Newcastle, this is the amount that we spend for their education. Article 4 is the authorization that the Board of Selectmen would be allowed to negotiate an interlocal agreement with the other 5 municipalities that also own Central Lakeland County ambulance service to try to establish a new interlocal agreement between those 6 communities. Article 5 is the budget, the municipal budget, which again we could talk a great deal more about. This is an explanation as to the overall, really the big picture of what does the school, the town, and the county, all of that put together, where does that put you as a municipality? And these are some of these important numbers, and the mill rate, of course, that everyone's concerned with. The most challenging, probably for new residents or voters, is this second half of the ballot. And this is an important part, because these are the items that provide the officials and the Board of Selectmen authority to effectively run the town until next town meeting. So we have here, Article 6 is somewhat of a catch-all of a number of different items, the ability to collect gifts, the ability for the Board of Selectmen to dispose of property is acquired due to uncollected taxes. I mean, there's the ability for the Board of Selectmen to enter multi-year agreements. I mean, there's a number of these different items. I certainly could go through each one if we want to, but there's a number there. And then moving on, number 7, this authorizes the town, actually the treasurer, to waive the foreclosure if the Board of Selectmen's thought that this foreclosure would be not in the best interest of the town of Newcastle. That's one that certainly there are times when accepting a property could be detrimental to the town's interests. So that provides the town that ability. The Article 8 is the unpaid taxes and the interest of that. Again, a couple of years ago, the board established somewhat of an unwritten policy as to how to gauge that number and to have that number float with the prime rate to some degree, so it's not a overly burdensome amount, and yet it's a number which reflects the desire of trying to compel individuals to pay as best they can. Article 9 allows the tax collector to accept prepayment of taxes and to not have to pay interest for those to those who have prepaid. Article 10 authorizes the Board of Selectmen to effectively use an emergency authority to if there was a unbudgeted major expense. Article 11 authorizes the board to transfer not more than 2%. Again, much more of an emergency situation usually, but unanticipated event. And then Article 12 is merely the authorization to manage the fish ladder. Or in conjunction with the town of Noblesboro, but it allows the town of Newcastle to have that authority. So a lot of nitty gritty on the back page there, but very important articles that allow the board and the town to operate as it usually does. So that's where we are, Ben.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. I think at this point, maybe if you could throw up, or if somebody could screen share the budget, whatever you want to do, Stephanie, for your portion. But if you could just maybe provide a similar type of summary overview of the budget from the school board, that'd be, I think, great.
Great. John, do you have that budget?
Is this it? How does that look?
Okay, great. Okay, so this is going to go through the total secondary budget is $1,477,738.50, which is up 4.8%, 4.48% from last year. And we'll go through each of the categories. Number one, to see what sum the town will be authorized to spend for regular instruction. And that is $1,143,305.85. And that is, again, up 2.7% from last year. And that is mostly just due for more students in Newcastle. This is all, we don't have much control over this. We just pay tuition to the schools that our students want to attend. So we have, let's see, I think we're up two students from last year. So that's that difference. To see this, number two is to see what sum the town will be authorized to spend for special education. School committee recommends $219,229.86. And this section is up 15.26%. And again, this is just based on need. So we do not have, and most of this is going into to Lincoln Academy for our special education students there. And one student required an ed tech next year, so that's part of that. I don't know if this is too much information or is this good?
This is actually the first time that anyone has seen this. I think maybe, I guess you had a public hearing a little while ago, but this is the first time that folks that have been watching sort of our proceedings have seen this. So this is fine.
Okay, the next is, okay, number three, to see what sum the town will be authorized to expend for career and technical education. School committee recommends $200, and that's, we just put that $200 in every year. It has not been expended in the last few years, but that's a placeholder for anticipated costs. Number four is to see what sum the town will authorize to expend for other instruction. And that's $0, as it's been in past. That's a budget category we don't use for secondary education because that's included in any tuition that we send. Number five, to see what sum the town will be authorized to expend for student and staff support. And the school committee recommends $833.70. Just see. I can't see the screen anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just had to move it to try to blow up the. There we go. How's that?
Okay, great. Well, it's still, I can only see half of it.
Oh,
Oh, wait, let me see if I can change it on my fit to window. Okay, that's better. Thank you.
sure.
Okay, the next number is to see what sum the town will be authorized to expend for system administration. The school committee recommends $38.36. And that is up 6.69%. And basically that's your superintendent, the AOS office, our share. And number 7, to see what sum the town will be authorized to expend for school administration. And that's 0 because we pay tuition. And number 8, to see what sum the town will be authorized to expend for transportation and buses. School committee recommends $78,130.73. And this is up 1.12%, which is good. And that includes vocational transportation as well as the school bus that goes to Lincoln Academy. And we do not have any special service transportation this year. Okay, number 9 is facilities maintenance, because we pay tuition and we don't have a school, but that's 0. To see what the town will pay for debt service, number 10, we don't have any debt, and 11, to see what sum the town will be authorized to spend for all other expenditures, and that's 0 again.
Stephanie, this might be a good time to just mention that adult ed, which had previously been a part of the school budget, is now a part of the municipal budget. So when we talk about the municipal budget, that's not part of, the adult ed portion is now funded via the municipality's budget, not part of the school. So
correct.
That's a fairly recent change for some folks, but in case people were looking for that, they won't see it here.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. So that is the last article, is to see what sum the town will authorize for the school committee to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021 from the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from grades 9 through 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statute Title 20A 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidies, and other receipts. So again, the school committee recommends $1,477,738.50. And this is broken down in Article 15 and 16 between the required amount, which is determined by the state funding code, and 16, the additional amount that will be raised by the town. So the total local funds equal that $1,140,000. And then we have a beginning fund balance of $124,542.54. And the state subsidy of $212,894 for the total school budget of that $1,477,738.50. So okay, so then as we break that down, does anyone have any questions about the different pieces that make up the total budget?
It looks the same as it does every year.
Right,
Yeah.
It does. Okay, the required,
Mhm.
the additional,
Mhm.
local funds raised, beginning fund balance, subsidy. That makes up the
Just
total.
explanation, articles don't match the articles. They should have been 13 and 14 instead of 15 and 16.
Yeah, that's what I'm just noticing now. So we go down 12, that should be Article 15.
Yeah. So
16.
one thing that this is a good time to mention. In the past, this is the warrant that's voted upon at that annual, at the special meeting that you all establish. Usually it's the night of the GSB meeting.
Right.
Everyone after the GSB meeting runs and then goes to a separate room or what have you, and they approve this as a warrant. This year, this I don't know, I guess budget worksheet, it didn't exactly need to get the same sort of vetting, because what the folks who are representing the school unions and the school districts, they were fairly late in trying to respond to the governor's late word as to how these budgets were put together and then how the questions could be asked of the voters. So, the little things like this, like the numbers and all that, it's probably out of balance in terms of which article is, because the articles might be in different order or what have you, but the numbers are absolutely right as rain. And so the most important thing is $1,477,738.50, $8.50, which is what the question is on the ballot. But this is really just meant as a vehicle for you to understand, and that's why we kind of put it in the town report, so everyone can kind of just get their fingers in a way that they're familiar with, so they can understand how it came, how that 1,400,000 came to be.
Right.
So.
Right. So normally it's just the voters are just asked to vote on that total amount for the budget, the 1,477,000, as a validation vote. And all these details, as John explained, are discussed in a public hearing and voted on individually. That's why they're listed here. So you can see which each cost center, what is being expended.
Yep.
Okay, so that really should read 13 and 14, and those are just the amounts.
Yep. Great. Okay.
Is that good for me?
Yes, that does it. Thank you very much. Thank
Okay,
you.
so I guess I'm going to exit. Just
Okay.
so,
All right.
so thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for the explanation.
Okay, and if anybody has any questions, I can reply. All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Steph.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so at this point, we're going to keep hold on a minute, adjust my screen here. We're going to keep the public comment window open for another week. People, as ballots go out, town reports, we'll be going out hopefully this week, I think. And so you'll see a lot of this information in the town report. So please read it and review it. If you have comments, obviously get in touch with the staff, submit those comments. And at this time, as odd as it seems, we're going to close the public hearing and we're going to move into the Board of Selectmen meeting. So I think that's it. I'm just so weirded out by this whole thing. It's just weird. It's just weird. So, all right. Without objection, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I will open the Board of Selectmen meeting. The first thing on the agenda is amendments to the agenda. I have one thing I received from Shelley this afternoon, which was reappointments for town positions, which expire in 8 days. So we have to do them tonight since we won't be meeting again before they need to be reappointed. And those are essential positions, no board appointments or committee appointments. It's literally just treasurer, secretary, registrar of voters, and deputies and all that stuff. So we'll take that when we get to it. I think we'll add that right in under 5.3. Does anybody else have any other amendments to the?
Yeah,
Yep, Wanda?
I do. I would like to amend the agenda to table the 5.2, the road commission, the road maintenance contract, only because I truly have not had time to look at it. The agenda, the packet came out late yesterday. I didn't get home till late. I did not have a moment at work today. We had people out. I thought I would have time. I had barely time to get home and get to this meeting today. So I've not had the option to look at it, and I really don't feel comfortable signing something or voting to sign something that I haven't had a chance to look at. So I'd like to table that one if possible.
As an amendment to the agenda, I mean, you could make a motion to table it when we get to it.
Okay,
Amending the agenda to just not include it or put it on next meeting
whatever,
agenda is
whatever we
fine.
need to do.
The only question I have regarding any of that is whether or not we are in a similar situation with, the contract expiring on the 30th, and then we'd be out of contract because our next meeting won't be until, hold on, I gotta pull it. It's a day before we vote,
Yeah.
the 13th. Unless we choose to meet either the 29th or the 6th.
I just feel like it's not fair to get a packet and a contract. And I signed a contract, the last one, without reading the whole thing and thinking that I had options for making changes, and found out I didn't. So I certainly don't want to be put in that place again. And I truly, I am not one to not be prepared for these meetings, but I went to work early today. I got home late. I never stopped all day, and I have not had a chance to look at it. I looked at the packet briefly last night, and I thought the time I had was better spent looking at the town hall stuff, because we need to get that open. So that's where I spent what energy I had to get that done. So anyway.
John, can you tell us a little bit about the impact of that?
Yeah, so basically that contract covers all of the work that we put out, whether it's in terms of maintenance or the somewhat larger capital projects for road work. It does not cover the Academy Hill project. So the Academy Hill project is a separate contract. So this would cover any of the other projects that are covered, in terms of whatever's those in the budget, those that finish off West Hamlet Road, Stonebridge Circle, and so forth. Although those are part of the budget, which would need approval by the voters to expend the monies. So there's that issue. So really, realistically, you're looking at over the next, let's say, 14 days or whatever the amount is. You're looking at, storm events or other projects that are somewhat, not any of the bigger projects. It would be, that for that 3-week period, or I should say 2-week period, or 10 days, I guess it'd be 10 days, we'd be without, without a contract to cover that road maintenance work. So we could, like you said, we could pull a meeting together if you wanted to talk about that. Whichever, last summer we went without a contract for a period of time because we were kind of revising how the contract looked, and there were a lot of different pieces of input on that. So, I would not advise us to engage in any projects that would be done outside of the Academy Hill project without the contract, certainly. But certainly storm damage and whatnot, those are things that we could do on a case-by-case basis.
The current contract expires on the 30th.
That's right.
All right, so I know we're kind of taking things out of order, excuse me. But since it's come up and we have a few things on the agenda, we'll just deal with it right now. I believe the two paths before us are to discuss it and decide on it tonight, or pull a meeting a week from tonight on the 29th to discuss just that. I don't like the idea of being out of a contract when we have roads in the projects in the project plan that are going to be moving forward, and asking the contractor or the town to have no contract covering liability in either direction past June 30th. So Joel, go ahead.
I'd just like to say I was thinking about this earlier, and the fact that we always approve this contract right before the summer begins, which is our road maintenance season. It seems a little counterintuitive. I think this is something moving forward to avoid this type of situation. We should be approving this maybe at the beginning of the calendar year, because that's when the road commissioner would start building the project, the budget for the following year. So I think if we approved it then, it would make more sense from that standpoint. But we obviously didn't do that, and we're in this spot. So I would say, if we're not going to approve it tonight, we should plan on meeting next Monday.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, let's just meet next Monday. Let's give Warner a chance to read it.
Okay, so do we have a motion? Excuse me, do we have a motion to table the road maintenance contract for FY21 1 week to a meeting of the Board of Selectmen on June 29th?
So moved.
So seconded.
Any further discussion? Joel?
What time?
7 usual time.
7 or 6:30? 7.
7.
I think until the town office gets reopened and whatever, I think we got to stick with normal timeframes as much as we possibly can. So
Okay, sounds good.
7 o'clock. Okay, all in favor of the motion? That passes 5-0. All right, so 5.2 tabled. Any other amendments to the agenda as presented? Seeing none, we'll move on. Oh, no, all in favor of the agenda as amended? That passes 5-0. Minutes from April 27th. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
So seconded.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion, comments about the minutes?
I don't remember. It seems like a lifetime ago.
April
I
20.
found out that somehow we missed the 27th when we were going through those. So I was talking with Harriet last week. So housekeeping. Thankfully, we'll be caught up. But yeah, sorry about that.
It does not seem possible that was that short a time ago, as it feels like much, much longer. All right.
It does remind me, we need to put the real estate back on our budget on our agenda, because we got to get that stuff listed and sold.
Yes.
I think
that was
you've
the one
made-
that caught my eye as well.
I think you've made the decision. I think it's just a question of having it listed.
We need to call our real estate agent, because we have.
I have it off. When I have an office, I'll be glad to call. And when I have phones, when I have phones, I can call. This week, right?
All righty. All in favor? All in favor of the minutes from April 27th? That passes 5-0. All right, so new business. We have the zoning code method timing of vote. And I think several of us have had some conversations around the idea that perhaps it isn't the greatest idea to try and have the code voted on at the same time as the general election in November. There's going to be a lot of focus on state and federal issues, and it might be better to sort of not add more to that. So holding it at a different time perhaps might make more sense. And the question is, when can we do it justice, where it's sort of the star of the show? It's the only thing that's going, and it can really be sort of talked about. The question is, again, when makes sense. We don't know where we're going to be in the coming months. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what the pandemic is going to bring or hold for us. And so it's still a little nebulous, but there was enough concern that perhaps November wasn't a great idea to, pile on to that. that we should think about another time. So I think at this time, the question should be, what does the Board of Selectmen feel like they want to do regarding the code? It's languished during the pandemic. Nothing's been done since literally everything shut down. And how do we keep the ball rolling? And when is it appropriate to bring it back before the town? You know, so that we can move forward on it. Brian.
Well, my question to you and Wanda, where does the code stand? What's left to be done on it? Is it pretty much completed? Is it, you know, last I knew, we're just gonna clean it up a little bit, change some formatting. And we're supposed to have that done back in the middle of April. Of course, we hit the pandemic, so that all got pushed out.
So the very last thing that happened was that the committee finished the draft of the actual core code itself. And basically the committee said, okay, this is done as a draft. The next step is for the selectmen to do whatever they're going to do to elicit comments, and then see if there's something that needs tweaking or changing, and go through the public hearing process, or whatever the board wanted to do regarding, you know, community engagement, basically. But the work on the core code was essentially complete. I think at the last meeting we had, there was some, you know, spelling and punctuation, and like we went over like some definitions, and I mean, it was very minor stuff, but all the major work has been done. Unfortunately, what didn't get done, and what I haven't done since then, is reformatted the rest of the ordinances to fall in line with the new formatting, so that everything just sort of kind of is cleaned up and, you know, separated nicely, and it all looks and works together. So what I'm talking about are things like the shoreland ordinance, the tower, the wind, you know, those sort of.
All the one-offs, yeah.
Yeah. And it was the work to do those, because the question was, you know, at the moment, the way we've got the land use ordinance packaged is just one big thing. In reality, what it is it's one big book of ordinances with separate ordinances within it. And what the committee had recommended was to take those and just sort of pull them apart so they can sort of stand not in a big book by themselves, but separately, but look the same, so there was continuity within the ordinances. And then, you know, people could just take the one that they needed instead of having to print out this like massive chunk of paper. I mean, it took like a ream of paper.
So if that's just formatting, can we have Harriet do it? Not the volunteer, but you know.
I have no idea, to be honest. And I'll be completely honest, I haven't looked at it in months. I reviewed my notes about where we left off with the core code, and our final meetings leading up to the pandemic, just in regards to the core code and the work undone. And I think we had gotten to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wanda, if your memory is different than mine, that's, I believe, where we left the core code.
Yeah, we were really looking at we had actually scheduled a public hearing. Joel had some great ideas for the boards and stuff at the town hall and different places and at the public hearings to elicit some comments. And then I think we all wanted a public hearing in town, maybe one in Sheepscot, and then gather information and come back maybe once or twice more as a code group, as our team, and tweak any major concerns that was gathered at those, if there were any, and then put it out for the final push. But we all got derailed. So.
Derailed. Some of us got run over.
Yes, some of us got hit by a steam train.
So
I think I would like to propose a date to vote on this is like September 15th. It's a Tuesday. Gives us a date to set, to aim for. And I think we need to come up with some ideas, maybe talk to the committee or ourselves and come up with some ideas for how to get this out there. Because again, we can meet with groups up to 50. And the governor now says we can do 50 people in multiple rooms. I don't know how we do that. We don't have any place big enough to space out 50 people by 6 feet. But whether we make some videos or something, we just have to make a decision and move forward and get this going. Because if we sit on it any longer, we might as well just throw it away because everybody's going to forget what we're doing. And, and I know we've got people out there waiting to do stuff for this code again. So I would like to push it faster, but I don't know if we can do a vote before September 15th.
Joel?
My only concern, I agree with Brian that we need to push it faster. My only concern with the September 15th is I'm not sure it's fast enough, because I worry about is in September we're going to have schools starting back up. We're going to have a lot of things that are very confusing and new, and there's going to be a lot going on. If we could possibly do it sooner, I know it's pushing it, but again, this isn't a new thing. It's been around for a long time. It's been available. The drafts have been on our website. We've been talking about it a lot. And I just don't want to see it get kicked any further down the road yet again. So, I mean, I'm fine with setting. Yeah, I mean, I think if we can do it on the 15th of September, that would be great. But I would even say if it was at all possible and seemed reasonable to push that date forward, just because the world seems to be changing on a daily, weekly, minute by minute basis. So so there's that, and I think we just have to accept the fact that the methods that we were looking at pre-COVID are probably not going to happen. We're not going to have a meeting in Sheepscot and a meeting, these meetings are going to look a lot different, and I would rather try and do fewer meetings that we can, however it is, whether it's mobile or in a big field with everyone spread out 6 feet apart. If there's a safe way that we can do it, I'd like to do it all at once and really just have it devoted to that, because I think it's important to present it and vote on it and get this thing moving forward.
You have another date in mind?
I don't have I mean, I don't know I don't know. Again, I think maybe September is the date that's most reasonable. If it seemed like it came together and we could pull something off sooner, I guess the thing is I would like to do it as soon as possible, just in the fear that the complications of the next phases of starting things up, being the next school year and moving into the fall, could potentially be problematic. But I don't know if it's even possible to do it any sooner. So again, maybe Brian is more realistic than me.
Carolyn, go ahead.
What I'm hearing from people that I know in the school system, it's not opening in September. They'll think in November or even January. These schools are not ready to have 32 students in a room. So I've talked to quite a few people that are in school systems, and they are struggling very hard. So I would be surprised if it's not November, December, January, even before schools open up.
I think the parents are going to push hard for them to get back to school.
Oh, definitely. But
they're not going to have a lot to say, but I think parents want it open September 1st, sooner if able. It's been a tough road for working parents.
Yes. Rumor has it. That's absolutely right, Wanda. Rumor has it.
So I'm just looking at the calendar, and kind of what I'm seeing is, basically between now and July 14th, we've got town office, community room, voting.
New board, reality of we get a whole
board
new board
coming in starting the 14th. So I think if we wanted to set a date realistically, because what we have to do somehow is it has been out. You're absolutely right, Joel. It's been out on the website now for all these months. It's been sitting there. But we have to do some sort of hearing, community engagement somehow between now and then. And then the question is, does that lead to revisions? How many revisions? And then do we hold more community engagement after those revisions? How much? How many times are we going to go through that cycle? Even if we just did that cycle once, I would say that the very earliest we could possibly think about having a vote would be maybe September 1st, because that would only give us a month and a half between after we vote and, for the year, and then we come back to vote again.
Right. And if school starts, it could be a hard time because school starts the Thursday before, Wednesday before, or the 1st. So, first is the day after Memorial Day or Labor Day weekend. So, oh no, that's the following week, isn't it?
When's the school supposed to start?
It's usually the week before Memorial Day, right? So probably that week.
Well, if Labor Day's early, it's usually after Labor Day. If Labor Day's late, like the 6th or 7th, it's usually a few days. It's usually the middle of the week before.
Yeah, Labor Day is the 7th.
High school's been starting in August.
Yeah.
The end of August.
Depends on when Labor Day falls. So if Labor Day's late, I would say it's probably going to start early September, before Labor Day.
That first week, yeah. I'd love to do earlier, Joel. I don't know if we have time. But,
Yeah.
No.
I just
board members. We're gonna.
I guess what I'm trying to push forward is that I know it's probably not going to be perfect, but we've fixed a lot of I think the committee did a great job of fixing a lot of the issues that had come up that made it, stumbling blocks. And, the revisions are going to come in the form of just like any ordinance, where the minute you're done, as complicated as a land use ordinance, the minute you're done, you start revising it and you find things that are clunky and you fix them. And we've been doing that for a long time, but at least we have the format and the general system to do it. So I wouldn't want to go through too many. I wouldn't want to put it out there as too many that we're making huge revisions to it. I think it would be sort of similar to our budget that we put forward as the board, where it's like, here's the budget, this is what we've got. And I don't think there's going to be some big stuff. So I mean, if it's the 15th that works for the date, I think we just set that and we hold to it. And we're just going to have to get creative with how we do our public hearings. Our public hearing might look a lot like this one we just had, where we provide the information, we put some information outdoors where people can actually physically go and look at it. They can write questions before the public hearing. We can hold the public hearing and then hold the questions open for another week, and then put it to a vote. So I think that's kind of what we're going to have to do. And we could do, some supplemental online sort of meetings where we just do Zoom stuff or whatever. I just think that we have to embrace that possibility, because if we don't, it's just not going to happen. So
I agree with you, Joe. Yeah, you have to remember, this is a living document. We've been changing it for the 10 years I've been on the board, and it was probably changing for 30 years before that. So
yeah.
And it's never going to be perfect. So.
It's never going to be perfect. And I guess, I mean, I'll be honest, my appetite for going back and making large wholesale revisions again, I don't have the appetite for it, to be honest with you. We collectively, we as a town, but the people on the committees and everybody that's put input into it have they put a lot of thought and a lot of time into, you know, not just the basics, but solving specific problems, that large problems that folks had with the previous proposal. So I guess I just want to echo what I'm hearing and say that the hard work has been done. It should be put forth sooner rather than later. It can be amended, it can be changed at any time. It takes a special town meeting, it takes an annual town meeting. Every year, other than this year, we've made changes to ordinances at town meeting, and that's how it normally goes. So the enemy of the good is the perfect. So I think I'm just trying to think in terms of like the work, the rest of the work that needs to be done and the time frame leading up to that. It would be possible to do it September 1st. I just checked, Labor Day is actually the 7th, so we could try to sneak it in before. I'm also fine with September 15th. I'm good with either one, I guess. Joel and then Wanda.
Could I ask that maybe if we presented this idea to the committee and see what they thought about having it totally ready, or do we not need to do that? Are we good to? I just would almost want to work backward. Like, when are we going to have the document? When would be the earliest we would have the document ready to say this is what we're talking about? Hold a public hearing, do all our notifications, have the public hearing, do all those kind of things. So if we started working backwards from that initial date is when we would have that document. That's kind of the key to it. Where does that bring us? And maybe that's something that once the committee gives us that date, we could just move to try and get it done, as soon as possible. I'm not trying to pull this thing through. I'm just, like I said, if there's ever been something that's been born under a star, it's been this process. Every time we try and do something, something comes up. So
Sorry, guys.
so anyway, but if it's easier just to set the date of the 15th, I say that's fine too. But
well, I have a thought about that, but Wanda, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the hard work as far as doing the code is done. I think now the hard work is making the public know, because we really got our butts handed to us in the last vote. Now, granted, it was a huge vote, but people, there were certain things they didn't like. And I think that's our task now, is to tell people that we changed those, that those aren't in there. We heard you loud and clear and we changed those. And I think that's the work that needs to be done. So people don't think, take those 4, I can't even remember how many questions it was now that you guys tasked us with, 4 or 5, to not just, put the same lipstick on the pig, make sure you change it. And I think we did. And we know some of the things that really caught us up, that shot us down. And I think it's really, really important that we educate people that we heard that loud and clear and we changed those. And that, even, the code we have now, there's so much you can't do. And now, we heard what you wanted to do and we've brought this to you. Now, that's the hard work. How do you get that word out to everybody? But I mean, I think that's where the hard work is going to come in, not so much what's left to do with the code, other than, like Ben said, there's some extra articles that need to be, the shoreline and those kind of things that need to be tweaked to look like it. But I think the code is in pretty good shape. I don't think it's going to need, I'd be shocked if people really look at it, that they don't think that, we've done what was asked of us and that they're going to come back with major revisions. There's going to be a few people who aren't going to like it, but hopefully not the majority. So.
John, go for it.
There we go. My hand was up, but you couldn't see it because the background obscured it. So anyway, yeah, I think, so there's a couple things we have to talk about, which is the method. The method is the key here, because that really dictates a lot of the timeline in terms of how far back and how far out you can go. So if you were to vote in an open town meeting format in a field or however you want to do it, we'd have 7 days. Up till 7 days beforehand, you could make changes to the document. If you're going to do secret ballot, that's a different category. Now, the secret ballot and becomes this whole thing with where we're in the state of emergency, and so there may be special rules in there. Usually, of course, you have to have an ordering of the question, and then you set your warrant, and then you have absentee ballots. So usually it's like 30 days. You have to set your warrant before and set your document before the vote. So the idea is the document's set at the same time the absentee ballots are available, right? So if you're going to have secret ballot, and that's really I guess the key number is, if you want to have a September 15th vote, that would mean, and if you want to have that vote be a secret ballot, everything has to be done August 15th. You got basically 6 weeks to do it. If you want to have an open town meeting vote, you would have, up until that, that first week of September effectively to make changes. Now, maybe a problem to give yourself that much time too. But making those modifications, though they're not really policy changes, but they have the same impact. Whether it's just the color or the reorganization or just a period here and a comma there, we're not looking to change the intent of those other ordinances, but you have to treat them with the same import as the other document, because they are also being voted upon again. So, I think, while I think all of our eyes are on the code, the work that has to go into getting those other ordinances to speed is important. And I would, Brian's earlier question is, is Harriet or others available? I would be hesitant to offer anything in terms of the office until I know kind of where we are with the crush of people coming in. I expect July is going to be just a breakneck speed. So I'm not sure, what that, where that will mean in the end. I could be wrong. And in that case, yeah, we definitely, I'm sure she'd love to jump on that. It's a tough type of project she'd love, but, I don't know. I want to, that I could, we could commit to it at this point, just in terms of just trying to get people in and out of the office too. So, but yeah, I think, the main thing is you got to determine that method of voting. That's the first thing really you guys have to do, even before, a date probably.
So I think, I'd like to make the recommendation that we proceed in the same manner that we're going to, hold the annual town referendum, and we do a secret ballot vote for the code. I think until the situation changes, it's probably the most responsible thing to do. So I guess I'd put that forth, and just to sort of echo what's been said, the Wanda's absolutely right. The work of the code, the core code, which has been sitting online on the town website for months now, there should be no need for that to change before it goes forward. The only thing that would need to change would be the ordinances, the format of the ordinances, like you said, John, that we've already adopted. And so I guess the question of this short conversation prior to the pandemic had been, how do we phrase the question that what we want to do is repeal the current land use ordinance, replace it with the core code, and re-adopt and list out all these other ordinances in the new format as a single warrant article, because to vote on each of them individually is crazy when all we're talking about is just formatting. And the major question is really just, do you want to replace the land use ordinance with the core code? But if we're changing the formatting of the other ones, then we have to put those up as well, like you said. So I think the question would sound, when it was all written out, it would sound something like that. It might be a little long in the tooth. There'd be an explanation that went with it, but I think it can be done with a single warrant article. So in terms of like a secret ballot, it's not going to be confusing. There won't be multiple questions on it, and there'll be plenty of space for description, explanation, what other information we felt was necessary to inform the voters on the secret ballot vote about the breakdown of what that means, without without swaying anything, or doing anything illegal. I'm not suggesting that. So that would be my recommendation: is that we proceed with a secret ballot vote on September 15th. And you're right. If we timing wise, August 15th, July 14th, we got 6-7 weeks, and it's got to be, the rest of it's got to be done. It's not undoable. It is doable. I saw a couple of people. I'm sorry. Who had their hands up? Wanda?
No, I was just gonna say, I think we should go with the secret ballot, only because that way we meet our time frame as far as getting stuff ready ahead of time. We could always tweak it if we needed to as it got closer to the 7-day, but we don't know what this virus is gonna do. And I mean, we're seeing states shut down again, and that certainly is not what we want to have happen, but we don't know what's gonna happen. So I think we have to proceed with caution and be prepared to do the secret ballot if that's what we choose to do. That way we don't get blindsided when we get there and find out now we got to push it out farther because we were banking on a public vote and now we can't have one. So, I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I think if we get there and everything looks great and rosy and whatever, then we could probably change our mind the other way. But at least this way we will be prepared to get it done. So.
Joel.
Right as rain. Right as rain, Wanda. Right as rain.
So we did if we did the secret ballot, we could do absentee ballots as well. So, and that would be, and so I think that really makes the most sense. And again, I think as a famous selectman once said, so you can stare in this mud puddle too long and it's just a mud puddle, and we really have been staring in this mud puddle for so long, and it's drying out because it's been so dry. We haven't had rain in days, and so I think it's really time to move this forward. Again, it's going to look different, and people are going to have to accept that we're going to have our public hearing in the same manner we just did. We're going to have some online stuff that people can see, and we'll print out some stuff so people can actually look at it. But it's got to happen. And if there's a major formatting issue or whatever that we need to amend, we do have another vote coming up in November, so it'll be easy to amend it if we need to. If there's something that we realize that we goofed on, it's not going to be hard to do, And I'd be surprised if we weren't changing something, you know what I mean, like that in November anyway.
So could I further make the recommendation that since we are going to meet next week, why don't I reach out to the zoning committee, make sure that Wanda and I's recollection and our notes are on par with where everyone else is thinking, and that we truly are, this is where we're at, and pose the question if they have any good ideas or suggestions about ways to for the board to engage the public on that education that Wanda was talking about the new core code, and just put it out there and see what we get back. And we'll plan to talk about it again next week. But I think now we should probably go ahead and, just to make it official, let's go ahead and set a date for a secret ballot vote on the code on September 15th. So just to make it official, I think we should get a motion, a second, and take a vote. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to set a secret ballot date to approve the zoning code for September 15th, Tuesday, September 15th.
Tuesday, September 15th. Okay. Move. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion about setting the date for secret ballot vote on the core code? All in favor? All right. That passes 5-0. So we'll come back. I'll send an email out maybe tomorrow and see, what the zoning, committee has to say. If anything, I'll report back.
Rob has some good ideas on educating. So
great. All right, so moving on to we tabled 5.2, but then I said 5.3 appointments. Hold on, let me pull up that email. Actually, John, could you
Yeah.
just share it?
I'm sorry, can I just what?
Screen share the appointments.
Oh, sure. Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
Do you guys see them all?
Yes.
Just the one page, so.
Yep.
This is just, yeah, this is, so we worked on this today in the office, Michelle, Shelley and I. Basically, I came to realize that it was very likely we were not going to have another selectmen's meeting before the end of the fiscal year. And so this is the last dash to try to at least deal with the officials. The committees will need a further a reappointment, or we'll have some vacancies we'll need to fill. But at least if we were to appoint these folks that are on the screen in their varied positions, we can keep the doors open of sorts on July 1st.
Well, I think we should deal with it now. We have it in front of us, and as we've done in years past, and has become our habit, instead of naming them all individually in their positions, since we all have it on the screen as part of the record now, everyone can see it. I think we just entertain a motion to appoint all of these folks to all of these positions for the coming year, since they are one-year appointments.
Yep. I'll make the motion to approve as written.
We have a
I'll
second.
second it.
All right. Any discussion about the appointments for the coming year? Wanda?
Is everybody willing to take these appointments for the coming year?
These folks, yes. There's some
Okay.
other, it's the committees that, you know, you always have a question about. So that's
Okay.
why we may try to do something for the 29th now, actually, so we can get the committee staffed. So hang on. So more to come on that. We may have more no's or maybes next week, but this group is ready to rock.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion about the appointments? All in favor of the appointments? That passes 5-0. Thank you very much for sharing that, John.
Yeah, hey, Ben, I just want to do a quick shout out. I noticed, I didn't realize it, but we lost Jimmy Kaler Jr., Jimmy Kaler Sr. a week or so ago. So, put our condolences out to his family. They've been longtime members of the Newcastle Fire Department and have given a lot to the town over the years. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Okay. I think that does it for 5.3. Unfinished business, 6.1 community room project. All right. John, you got to remind me where we're at on this.
We're in a state of disarray right now. No,
There's just a lot happening. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, we're talking before the show, before we got started here, before we got the live stream, and it felt like Lawrence Welk or different things. I feel like this is like I'm spinning plates right now. I'm trying to keep all these plates going. So basically, here's where we are. So I'll wait to talk about the town office maybe secondly, but probably gonna talk about it all. I'll talk about it all together because everybody wants to know everything that's going on. So it's probably best to do that. So we are, the town office is currently painted. We have some furniture in some rooms. Thank the staff for coming in and doing some extra painting to do that. It was very helpful, and it's made it's when you walk in, I think it makes for a lot nicer experience for everybody who walks in. Carolyn came in and gave us a wow.
Yep.
So
It's nice. Yeah.
So we get the thumbs up from Carolyn and Sam, which is always a good thing. So But it's different, but I think we're making headway. So the paint's done. The ceiling tiles are going back in. All the lights are done. We're painting, and it's kind of that trim painting at the end of last week. So it's kind of finishing touch time, but there's a lot of finishing touches to be done. And of course, you got to create a punch list as well. So we're not even at the punch list stage of this project. The windows are currently for the counter are on order, but they are delayed. We had a chat today, and they're delayed even further than I realized. It looks like we're out at least 2 weeks on those. So we've been in talk to try to figure out if there's some sort of alternative to use on the counter, but unfortunately, it's what we had hoped to have ready to go. There's just the supply isn't there because everybody is also trying to do some sort of tempered glass solution on their counters as well. But in terms of the process of where we are, it's quite messy. It's there's a lot of cleaning that's going to need to be done in the office. We plan to have a cleaning crew come in on Thursday, our regular cleaners who do our office, have them come in, do a good clean, do some floor work, strip out a couple, the bathroom and the kitchen area, but then wax everything else. But it's in some rough shape. I had hoped to be at a point today where tomorrow was touch up and clean up of those kind of loose ends, but we're not there. I'm hoping we'll be there Wednesday, but there's a lot of work to be done. Right now they have one person doing it, so it only goes so fast. The electrician will be back to do some finishing touches as well. There's an outlet that they've got to put in the closet there, supply closet, where we've got our new networking gear, and a couple lights that need to go in, but they're waiting for the cross members for the suspended ceiling as well. But all told, I'm pretty happy with how I think it looks. I think it looks great. The color is great. I think it's going to be a welcoming situation. Jim was in today. He and I talked about his office, because his office really did change the most out of anyone. But I think we've got a great situation for him. Ken's going to be at a good spot. The math area looks fantastic. I think we've got a good program for those things. We could talk a little bit about timing and opening in a little bit, but at least in terms of the project end and the money end of it, things are falling in about where I think I expected them to be. Since last week, we've to jump now to the community room. We have hired a painter, so we've brought that part into the mix. So we have left undecided at this point is what to do with the rest of that project, whether it's we talked about the flooring, certainly we talked about the heat pumps last week, and then there were some other items that we also addressed as part of last week's conversation, whether that would be the exterior lighting, the broadcast ability to do a Zoom meeting like this and involve the general public as part of your meetings, and then there's also furniture, just where to sit. On the last note, down to the last first, we were able to take some of our furniture that we had in the meeting room where you all met. We brought that all to the fire station. Haven't had time to go through it. Quite frankly, we've been kind of straight ahead trying to get everything else done. But at some point, we'll be able to go through that and see what works with what's there, what doesn't work. But I'm not in a position right now to say where we stand in terms of our needs on that. The thing that sticks in my mind was what Carolyn had said last week in terms of the ability to clean cloth. That was one of those that you just don't think about, but when you start to think, geez, yeah, how do you disinfect a porous surface like that? So those are things that there just hasn't been room in my brain to think about right now. But we'll get to that. We'll certainly get to that. So that's where we stand right now. Our budget is still, we still have a substantial amount of money available for us to spend on both projects, but I think the question at this point, and certainly I have some budget numbers we can look at in terms of where we stand, and also what the rest of our budget looks like. We can talk about both of those things because I think that does provide a bit of context in terms of what we're looking at and what we have available to spend. So
You want to
that's where we are, Ben.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
I'm sorry I had to duck out for a minute, but I heard everything. Thank you for the update. Do you want to just dive into that, John? And
Diving. I'm diving. Okay, hang on. All right, so let me do first things first. Let me just show you. This is an export from Trio because I think we've got to start there, and then we can work ourselves. So this is where we stand as of today with the bulk of our regular operations budget. So this is our general government section right here. You can see that there's this is the key column here you're looking for, unexpended balance. So at present we have $75,317.10 unexpended in general government. Now general government covers a wide range of items. Most notably, it covers compensation, but it also covers all our fringe benefits, our insurances, contractors like our assessor's agent, operations, which is all of our lien filings and our postage and things like that. So there's a wide range of items that this covers. But you can see we're well to the good in this number, and also the bulk of this covers compensation. Well, again, as I had mentioned last time, a big amount of that compensation was due to an expectation that we were going to do some things different with the part-time deputy position, and we didn't go there. That was somewhat, we had put money and kind of rounded off our budget a year ago by saying we really don't know exactly how that position would work, but we were going to put the money to that line and then figure it out after the fact. Well, this is kind of the after result of that, is that we have nearly $40,000 left unspent in compensation, and that's why it kind of falls down this way. It's not typical that money would be there, but you can see where that exists. Moving down, protection. That's an area that doesn't cover what you think it would. I don't think protection was what people think of waste disposal, but here we are. Protection in this case, 102.55, that covers the ambulance service. So there's about $15,000, well, 14, I guess, 7 that needs to go unspent here. But there's another 13,000 effectively that were under budget in this protection line. And then moving down here to public safety, compensation, again, there'll be some expenditures, and Clayton and I have already talked about a need to purchase some turnout gear potentially, but also some communications equipment. Again, not to exceed this line. And then also within this section, we also have money for the fire station here. You can see there's $9,944 that was meant to be, it was carried forward from the roof. So again, where we sit as of today, an unexpended amount of $45,000. Just to quickly walk through, we're $11,000 in the black on public works. Provider agencies are expended fully. Debt service is paid fully. So we're in a very good position in terms of where we sit today. There will be some I'm sure some more bills that will come in after fiscal year end that we'll have to reattribute back, electrical bills and regular utility bills like that. But certainly nothing that will put a substantial hit on this amount apart from our regular monthly, or we should say weekly payroll. We also don't have the town report billing as part of this as well, but that amount shouldn't exceed $5,000. So that's where we sit in terms of the town's budget as of today. You've already seen that. So where do we sit in terms of the project budget? Well, I'm glad you asked. Hang on a sec. Okay. So here we are. Can everyone see that? I don't know if it's big enough. If it's not, let me know. I'll blow it up.
Blow it up a little bit.
Yeah.
please?
Okay, that's way too much. Hang on. How's this? Is this any
That's
better?
good. Yep, it's good.
Okay, so here's where we are as of today. And there's some estimates that are included in this, but it gives you a sense of where we are. So the renovation, the contract renovation was $29,674. The lighting that we previously approved was $4,725. The heat pump, or heat pumps, I should say, but the heat pump line was $12,675. There will be some additional baseboard that we need to place into the what was your meeting room. It's kind of that corner where we had all the chairs. We need to have some baseboard in there, so there's a secondary source of heat in addition to the heat pump in that section of the building. Doesn't expect it to exceed $1,000 because effectively we're wiring off of an existing zone elsewhere in the building, but the rough number putting in $1,000 here. The 14.6 is for the phones, the network, and the cameras. And some of that certainly is network wide that will touch with the fire station, but it's at least as one number we put it here. The door lock, crash bar, etc. is in this number here. This is the electrical estimate. This was part of that was pulled out of the renovation number, and something that we were carrying as an individual number as part of this. And then the painting, again, that's a time and materials number. That's why staff is painting, is to try to keep that number down as much as we can. So this is the total of where we sit as of the entire project. This is the building reserve and the computer reserve to offset this number. So this is the amount left to raise from admin and operations. So this is where we stand as of today for the town office project. Does that make sense to everybody, or does anyone have any questions in terms of what that means?
That looks good.
You guys are in the right-hand side of my corner, so if I missed you, I'm sorry. I'm over here. I'm working on the left of my monitor, and you guys are on the right. So my mistake. So not hearing any. Let me move on to the community room here. And so here's where we are. So the paint number is 4,016. The heat pump number is 9,200. This is a rough number. This is such a rough number that flooring folks couldn't even give me a number. But I'm putting a number that's a nice round number here of $12,000. This would then leaves us still with room on the broadcast and the furniture side. But that total of at least these three items puts us at 25,216. I didn't have a line here for the electrical, but that's that wasn't because it wasn't a priority. It just was. It was part of the. I was thinking it's part of the electrical above. But anyway, so we have these two items here. Total of 25,216. The carry forward in the fire station building is $7,200. Which gave us $18,016 to fund from admin and operations. So that's a full accounting of where we stand as of today. Again, the flooring number is a very, very rough number, and I don't know how real that number is, but I know people. I know we, at this point, it's a question of where we are. We could take that number out entirely, but I think that the most important item out of all of this is not so much this Excel spreadsheet, which is tracking costs to date, as much as it's probably that Trio spreadsheet that really shows what we have in cash in our budgets available as it sits today.
Well, I think thank you very much, John. I think the most telling thing about the Trio report is the direct impact COVID had on all of our plans for the budget that we laid out last year to do work, and and then just not being in the office and so not expending those funds. And that's crazy to kind of see it, like the real impact of what just thinking done and wasn't used because life changed. So anyway, thank you for sharing all that with us. So if my rough numbers are correct and we chose to fund everything you've got on there, keep the funds, we don't even need to transfer funds because it's already in the same lines. But what you're saying is that with $75,000 in admin and operations, we need 48. So that leaves what, 28 still left in admin and operations that would roll into the general fund in 8 days.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
I'm not identifying, one thing is I'm not identifying separately from fire station costs versus town office costs. I'm just, and because a good number of the items that would cover both come out of the admin budget, but just in simple numbers, you're absolutely right. It's that 75,000 is pretty clearly there, and the vast majority of that will go unspent.
Yep. Excuse me. Well, I'll just go first. And honestly, thank you for putting the budget together. I didn't expect that at all. And based on our conversation last week, I know there was some reticence to spend the money, but I'm kind of wondering at this point, it seems like it'd be foolish not to. That money will literally roll into the general fund in 8 days, unless we designate it for these projects, at which point in 8 days, we would, if we wanted to do any of these projects, we would just have to actually transfer the money or put it into the next board would have to transfer the money out of the general fund in order to do the projects. If they wanted to do them at that point, which seems silly. Yeah. So I am literally kind of scratching my head. Joel, go ahead.
I was going to say there's another thing happening in about 8 days, and that's that we will no longer will have a town administrator. We'll have a town manager, and the town manager's duties are to take care of these types of items, to follow the directive that the voters have put forth for budgeting, and sort of take over those day-to-day operations and expenditures that traditionally we've been just sort of overseeing every little piece of it. And I think with that in mind, I think the thing that makes the most sense is to authorize John to use the funds that we have available in this admin operations budget to complete the project, and in the order that makes the most sense for getting us in there in a timely fashion. So with the priority to the painting, the flooring, the heat pumps, the furniture, the video equipment, I think that would be great. So I think it's wise to move that money forward and authorize the town manager to facilitate all that.
Wanda.
I still think that, even though we have the money, doesn't mean that we have to spend it. I still not so sure that, we need the heat pumps. Hiring the painting out at the community room costs twice as much as the staff painting it at the town hall. I just don't know about the heat pumps. We got video equipment at the town hall. Can we move that to the community room? It works there. Would that work at the community room? I mean, just because we have the money doesn't absolutely mean that we have to.
So on the video equipment we have that we've had in our meeting room, that LCTV put in, I don't know how many years ago, Ben, 9, give or take.
That was installed the the second month I was on the board.
So it's been 9 years. Always has issues, and we're always having to work on it and fix it to make it work. And as you probably wonder, if you noticed, one of the cameras hasn't worked since you've been on the board. The camera that shows,
I try not to look at the cameras. I don't want to be on.
well, if you ever notice, the one that sits above the head of the table is just up there flashing. It constantly does that whenever it loses power. It loses all its settings. It has to be reprogrammed consistently. So, and just the way that whole thing worked, it's pretty antiquated now and has had lots of issues that either myself or Ben have been, or even John have been fixing consistently. So that's why we've been saying we should replace it with something better, something that's going to work, something that we can still use for Zoom and do our live streaming to YouTube, which that system does not allow it. It's just a DVD recorder is all it is. So that's why I've been saying we need to do something. I've been looking at systems. I won't say any are cheap. So I'm trying to come up with something that's reasonably priced to do it. You know, talking with different vendors that do this for a living. So, and then how much can, you know, if we can get the equipment, I know I can install it. So that's what we're trying to do. I don't have any solid numbers yet, but that's why we need to look at this equipment. So we can actually better serve our community, especially if we're going to keep moving forward with COVID. Because I personally would like to start meeting in person again, you know, shortly after we have a new board, because, you know, the difficulties you've had not meeting for, you know, you came in late November, a couple months later, we're out to COVID, and, you know, there's such a large learning curve. We're going to have 2 new members that we really need to be meeting face to face with and answering a lot of questions and get a lot of training done. So I want to keep serving our residents the best we can without them having to come in and sit with us. So I think that's valid. And I also agree with Joel for what his statement was, and if that was Joel's motion, I'd like to second his motion to give our town administrator the ability to spend up to and not a penny more than what's left over in the budget.
Our town manager.
Glorified
until the
secretary,
14th.
3 more days.
Not until the 14th.
Yeah.
Carolyn, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I again don't agree with the heat pumps. I would rather see that money go into outside lighting because the lighting is very poor, and fix that massive hole if you're going to have people parking across in that other little parking lot, because they cannot take up the fireman's space in case there's a fire. Those firemen need to park in their space. So you're going to push people across the way, and there's massive uneven ground. And you need better lighting out there and over the doors. The door you're coming in, the door you're exiting, or if you're doing the same door, it needs better lighting. But I do not believe you need heat pumps in that building. I mean, you're only in there for a couple hours, couple nights a month. And yes, Clayton's in there, but he seemed to be happy all this time. I don't think you need heat pumps. That $9,000 to me shouldn't be spent for that. It's not like the town office and you have people in there for 40 hours all week long. It's not that case.
I believe, John, is the electrician going to go look at the building and the lighting outside?
Yeah, I've asked him to get us a quote on some improved lighting out there, but I didn't have anything tonight, so I didn't want to put it on, you know.
I agree that lighting needs to be done. And we talked to Seth about paving, looking at that parking lot.
Not specifically that. Sorry.
Hold on just a second. Was that actually a motion and a second? Because if it was, then I didn't call it.
I think it was, yes. Joel did make a motion because he said he was making a motion, so. Was I wrong, Joel?
No, I did make a motion. I mean, I could clean it up a little bit, I suppose. Probably should clean it up.
Let's just take it in order. If you're actually making a motion, make a motion. We'll second it, then we'll open it for discussion.
Okay.
We'll do it that way.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the town administrator / future manager to expend the money out of the remaining admin operations line to finish the projects as he presented them. And, use his best judgment to determine what the priority is on those, on that list is, and get that done. But yeah, that's my motion.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second it as long as, that sounds right. We're leaving to John to prioritize what needs to be done over there. Painting, flooring, paving, lights, heat pumps, video equipment.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or further discussion at this point about the motion? I think, John, you were saying something in response to something that someone else said when I interrupted, and I apologize.
No.
I asked
Oh, it was
about-
a question about the paving. It was a question about has the paving been looked at. I haven't gotten a quote on paving. There's some other projects, but yeah, I actually I've looked into it, but I don't have a number. How about that? There's the answer. That's a simpler answer to the question.
All right, so not on the list that you showed us tonight was exterior lighting, parking lot improvements, something else?
Video was on there. Lighting was not.
There.
Lighting, parking lot, furniture, broadcast. So I would, I guess I would say that I'd be in favor of the motion, that we should trust on the judgment of our financial agent. However, I'd like to maybe suggest that, for items that he feels require consideration of the board or going out for bid, that he report back to the board about those, and for those that he deems unessential to bring to the board, he just gives us an accounting of those as they are completed, so that we know what has been expended and when and how.
You make an amendment to the motion?
No, I'm just saying that for general discussion. That's my 2 cents. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Joel.
And then just so that we're all clear and we're all on the same page, if we go forward with the painting, the heat pump, and the flooring estimate, quote unquote, the estimate, and it comes to those things, we still have 18,000 left over. Is that correct, John?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Not left to fund from. So as this budget number sits of 25,216, we
Yeah.
have to pull 18,000 from the existing town
Admin.
budget to fund what we've already done here.
Okay.
Every dollar we add increases that number and then requires more money from the town budget to fill that.
From the admin from that number that we had.
Exactly.
And then what is left over at the end of both the town office portion and the community room portion at that point? Does that
Yeah, roughly 28, Joel.
okay, 28. So
But
there's still be an additional $28,000 available to take care of the broadcast equipment, the furniture, the lighting, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but so like my feeling is I want to make sure that we have I want to make sure we have a good solid footing to be able to tackle any of the rest of these. I don't want to be in a situation where, geez, I thought it was going to cost X and then it's Y, and then we're over that number. You know what I mean? So I want to be on really firm ground before we say, oh yeah, let's buy this, this widget that's going to solve our problems, but because all of those individual, the lighting shouldn't be all that costly, but any of the others could jump a good number. So I want to make sure, at least for the items without yellow, we have a good number, and particularly out of the town office, because that's one that's almost already all done, and I just want to make sure those numbers fall where we expect them to be.
Yeah.
Where's my hand?
Brian, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so why don't we, as part of this amendment, change this list around a little bit to kind of give John what we think priorities are. Maybe it's painting, flooring, parking lot lighting, furniture, broadcast, and then heat pumps last, and that's, so that way there he knows what we got to get done, because we got to definitely fix the parking lot. We got to get better lighting before September, when it's start getting dark again. That kind of gives him a way to take these few dollars and make it work best for the town, getting that room set up.
Joel, sorry.
I'd say that the $9,000 investment to protect the $16,000 investment that we're putting into it with the paint and the flooring. I mean, we haven't fixed the problem. Just because we have an air conditioner that's from 1970 sitting on the floor in there, it doesn't change the fact that it's not on, it's not conditioning the space, it's not dealing with the moisture issues that are present. We're dealing with building renovations right now. I think it's smart to do that. It's also saving the taxpayers money in the long run. For the life of that heat pump, it's going to more than pay for itself, and savings in fuel and electricity for heating and cooling. So I would say that, coupled with the added longevity to the building, I would put the priority for the paint, the heat pump, and the flooring, and the furniture, because I think if we're gonna meet, we need all those things. We need that conditioned space. We need something we need to preserve what we've got there, and we need to have a safe place to be able to meet. So
I'm just going to jump in real quick, Wanda, and then I'll recognize you.
Okay.
I would have a slightly different priority, only because I'm looking at it from the perspective of liability to the town. So from a liability perspective, parking lot, lighting, not in this order, but parking lot, flooring, parking lot, and lighting are top of the list in terms of liability. We do not want to be responsible for any accidents that may befall residents while they're using the space on town property. So protecting that is priority number one, in my opinion. After that, I would agree with Joel. Protecting the investment in the building becomes the priority. So the paint and the heat pump definitely come second, in my opinion. The furniture and the broadcast, in my opinion, would come third, because those do not either impact liability issues or protecting an investment that we're putting into the building. So that would be my opinion. Go ahead, Wanda.
So correct me if I'm wrong, 2 points, but the first one is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we already voted for the painting the flooring last week when we met. We voted to go forward with that, I'm pretty sure.
We did.
Okay, so that's kind of a done deal.
Those are done.
Secondly, I know lighting's a liability, but I've come out of the town hall at night in the dark many a times when I've parked, gone out the side door and parked in the front. And, I think people know how to walk. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody's got a flashlight on it. I mean, I'm not saying that lighting's not important. Certainly, having good bright lights for existing things that are already there. But I don't know. I just don't see spending all this money, but.
One, if I may, on the lighting side for over at the community center, community room, every time we hold a meeting when it's dark. That's the biggest complaint I hear about is I can't see where I'm walking to get back to my car. So that's why I think lighting on that building, the street light, if we do that with everything with real term, would be great to put one out on the pole that Tidewater's gonna set for us. That'll take up that big corner that we're missing today. But some better lighting on the side of that building will enhance. I'm always concerned, residents get even voting. When we vote in November, the polls are open till 8. It's dark at 5, and we've got a lot of people out stumbling into that parking lot. And it's always a concern. We've been wanting to do it for years. So that's why I think lighting to me is a priority. And I agree with Carolyn, fixing the hole in the parking lot is a major issue too. So.
Joe, hold on just a second. I want to just recognize anybody that hasn't had a chance to speak in this go around here. And I think the only one that hasn't spoke is Carolyn. So Carolyn, unless you have anything else to add?
The heat pumps, I just don't agree with.
Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
So the patch in the hole in the parking lot, wouldn't that come out of a different category? Wouldn't we be stretching it to say that's admin and operations? We wouldn't,
It's not really roads because it's town parking lot.
Yeah, that comes out of annual maintenance, or it should come out of annual maintenance. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
Building maintenance, which are parking lots.
Well, are we sure the parking lot's outside the right of way?
right.
You own that road anyway.
The only thing about the parking lot is I think that we can patch it, and I think that sum probably isn't a great sum, but there's some underlying issues as to why it is doing what it's doing. Yeah. And if we want to fix those things, I think that we may not be able to accomplish that for what the funds we have available. Not to say it's not an issue. I think all of these are issues to some degree. I'm just saying that we may, to do this the right way, it may involve ripping up what's there, raising it up, drainage. So there's a great deal to that we may want to consider if we're going to go down that road. So, or we just patch it and we wait for another day.
I think for now we can afford to patch it. Put a Band-Aid to it, and then because we got to discuss all that gravel we were talking about the other day too, sooner or later. So
why don't we? We're meeting in a week. Why don't we get an official recommendation from the road commissioner, if you could, John, about what to do about that? Some ideas. If he looks at it, I agree it's falling apart because it probably wasn't built properly, and part of it's built on a swamp. So we're saddled with it at the moment, but that again doesn't excuse us in court for not doing our duty to make sure that there's a safe environment for residents to not break ankles when they're walking through the parking lot. So that in mind, let's get a recommendation from the road commissioner. That's his job. Okay, so I feel like everyone's had a chance at least a couple of times to state their opinions about priorities, about the motion. At this point, I'd like to call for a vote on the motion to authorize the town administrator to expend the unexpended funds out of the admin and operations budget to complete the projects as he sees fit in his best judgment, to get the community room renovated and ready for meetings of all boards and committees, and complete the town renovation project at the town office. So all in favor of the motion? All opposed? The motion passes 3-2. So normally we don't talk much about the town administrator report and communications, but there was one piece, John, I wanted to talk about, and I know it's already 8:30 and we've been here for quite a while, but your letter regarding your letter to the board regarding recommendation for procedures and processes for reopening the town office. I guess I just wanted to ask you to speak to that and make sure that everybody had an opportunity to read it and understand what it is you're suggesting, and to at least have a little bit of a discussion about it and endorse it. So why don't you go ahead and give us the summary?
So yeah, I mean, after your meeting last time, I was expecting to come to you before before we open the doors and move forward, because a lot of towns are grappling with how to open in this world. They're all taking slightly different approaches. There's some commonality in how they're doing it, but some towns have decided they're going to do it this way or that way. So roughly what I'm recommending that we move forward with is a plan where we obviously kind of govern, use the governor's guidelines as closely as we can, not for political reasons, not for some other reason other than these are the rules that have been vetted by CDC, they've been vetted by the state government. If we're going to go somewhere different than that, then I wasn't comfortable. I don't feel like I had enough history or backstory with what's safe and what isn't, other than to follow those as closely as I could. So I looked at our particular situation and I kind of isolated several items that I thought were important. Obviously access is important. People want to get in, people want to do what they want to do. So we want to try to, well, some places have cut back hours. I'd like us to try to hold as close as we can to our current hours of operation. That doesn't necessarily mean that people can walk right in as is. What I'm suggesting is that we go to a by appointment structure, which most other communities have done. Denver Scott has done it, and other neighboring communities are doing that, but a number of them statewide. It allows us to talk with them, be prepared for what's coming in, prepare them for what's coming, what they're going to encounter when they come in the office. There'll be new procedures. There'll be a buzzer they hit. We buzz them in. They can walk right in. They can meet with the staff. The staff will be prepared in terms of what that customer wants to accomplish. Give them a lengthy amount of time to be able to do all that needs to be done in that period of time, and then they're off. So really trying to, as best we can, try to keep a handle on that. Now, on top of that, there's some ways in which we can engage residents who don't need to come in, but we're available to them. So Shelley and Michelle and I talked today about some of those options. That when we aren't, if someone wants to say re-register a vehicle, and they're elderly or they don't have a computer or whatnot, there's ways in which we can assist them in that. Talk them through it over the phone. We can use the Dropbox to a greater degree to handle vitals requests. There's a number of different items we can do without having to set up an appointment, which allows us to keep that flow going. There's a pent-up demand, I suppose, for services that we can offer in the office. So while some of that can be by appointment, and we can kind of structure that, because if we simply go first come, first serve, we're not going to be serving those who most need it. And those who most need it are those who have unregistered or, let's say, new vehicles which need to be registered. That should be the primary. There's no other way that they can get those cars legally on the road unless they come in our office. So we need to prioritize those folks first and foremost. There are marriage licenses. Those have to be done in person. Again, something that has to be by appointment. But a number of these items are things that we can do, and we think we can do them electronically or with that kind of over the phone touch to keep things moving, so they can do what they need to do, have their their license or whatever it may be, but we can keep the ball rolling in our office too. So we talked about the access. We talked about, so in terms of physical spacing, we're thinking a maximum of 3 customers in the lobby. So that'd be 1 at each counter and 1 person utilizing the MAP meeting space, which would allow them to, if they're meeting with me or with the assessor's agent or so forth, give us a maximum of 3 in We talked about, so face coverings. So governor's guidelines require face masks to be worn in indoor facilities, such as our office, whether it's staff or customers. So that's obviously probably the hardest thing, because it requires people, never mind who are not necessarily part of our world every day, we're not employees, to have to follow and comply. And I recognize that's a very challenging thing. We're going to purchase, paper masks, so people can, if they didn't bring one, we can make sure that they can comply. If there are those who have, physical or medical issues that prevent them from being able to do so, we'll be compassionate about that, and work with folks. There are folks who have disabilities who cannot use coverings, and all that requires is simple communication, and we'll work with them. But the majority of folks should be wearing a mask. They come in. We're going to offer those masks for folks to come in and use them. Our staff, when they're at the counters, will be using them. They'll be wearing masks as well. One thing that the governor's guidelines also talk about is that masks, if you're in your own office, you don't need to wear a mask. That's when you're outside of that area. So we'll talk today with Phi about some minor things we can do to Shelley and Harriet's desks that would maybe allow them to be a little bit more secure around their desks. But if they're kind of turning around and we're kind of chatting kind of in that kind of around the copier as we do, we might, that would be a different scenario. But if you're facing your computer, you're somewhat enclosed, trying to work towards that. Ventilation, we're going to boost the fresh air intake into the office to try to get as much fresh air into the building as we can. So we've, our electrician, Chris, helped us out with that, got that set up, clean common surfaces. We're going to as we go through and contact folks who need to have appointments, we're going to screen them. We're not going to give them 85 questions and check blood types or anything like that, but we want to know, have you been in contact, or and are you hitting the key points, and then obviously signage. But the most important thing is giving the office staff the right that if someone isn't complying, and again, I'm not talking about without compassion here, but someone who just refuses or is ill and walks in the office and refuses to follow those orders, those guidelines as the state's given them to us, we're giving staff the authority to, in the worst case scenario, to say, look, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Again, that's not something that we want to do. It's not something we look forward to doing. Frankly, I dread the idea of having to do this. It's part of the reason I dread we have to open those doors, but because I know it will happen. We all know it will happen. We've all probably encountered it in places our own places of business or places that we visited where folks are frustrated about the situation, and maybe they're not even frustrated about having to wear the mask or whatever it is, but they're frustrated about everything that's going on, and manifests its way. And I feel bad our staff, may have that situation, but I think that all we can do is follow the guidelines and follow them with compassion and as much clarity as we can, and be understanding, but really try to do our best to do what the experts are telling us to do. So we have a different standard than retail stores. We have a different standard than a lot of other places, because we're not only just the public that serves anyone who wishes to purchase goods or services. We are providing a service to all 1,750 residents, and so there is a different standard that we have to meet, certainly, and just trying to do the best we can to do that. So in my read, that's kind of our best foot forward, our safest foot forward. Politically, probably our safest foot forward is to not put any requirements of masks and let people walk in and deal with them as is, and know that we have the barrier. But I feel as though that, the governor's guidelines are there for a reason. And I respect that people have an individual right of not wanting to do so. I get it. I hear it. But as a governmental entity, I feel as though we have to set a higher, probably a higher standard. Hopefully our residents will be understanding. So many have been over the phone. So many have been great and completely understand about the situation we find ourselves in. But it's a tough time for everybody. I get it. I totally get it. So that's the memo.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for putting the time in on that memo. I thought it looked really good, and it was well written and well thought out. Carolyn, go ahead.
The other day when I did stop in, as I was leaving, a person walked right up to me and into the building. And I said, well, they're closed right now. And this person said, well, I just drove 2 hours. What do you mean they're closed? And that person plowed their way into the building. And I backed up thinking, okay, sorry, but it is out of state, or probably if you're driving 2 hours to get to our town office, you must live somewhere other than Newcastle. And I backed away from the person, even though I was wearing a mask. And I'm hoping, John, that person didn't get too far into the building, because none of you really had masks on that day.
Right. Yeah. No, she did get in. She did maintain distance at the counter, which was helpful. But she was frustrated and and felt that she needed to pay her taxes and register her car. We have a lot of people, I think, who feel like it's like that time. Now's time. I got to do this. I got to take care of my car. It's the most important thing. And unfortunately, she'd already had paid her taxes in March. Didn't need to do so, and of course with cars, that was also another situation she didn't need to resolve and could have done remotely over the internet. So we resolved the issue for her, but it's a common occurrence over there.
Yeah.
Folks coming in and I get it. They're used to it a certain way. It's going to be an adjustment period, and it's going to be tough for Shelley and for Harriet and Michelle and all of us. It's going to be there's a lot of that stuff. Absolutely.
Wanda.
So a few things, but first of all, John, so it sounds like you're telling me that Monday, the 29th is not going to be an open date.
When I sent this out Saturday night, I thought, well,
because it was in the paper last week.
It'll be close.
Brian had mentioned that was a tentative date, so
yeah,
that's out there. So
yeah. So here's where I think we are. I found out today that the glass, as it says, about 2 weeks out. So obviously we're not going to. 2 weeks out is a week out is the 29th, right? So what do we do? So the plan B that they proposed was some sort of flimsy plastic guard to put up on the counter, which you really can't clean, and I think it's really not worth its time. So we've talked about what a plan B could look like in terms of sort of temporary plastic, plexiglass type barrier we could put up on the counter. But that only solves one problem. The other problem is that I think they're a little bit behind in terms of the work that has to get done, the cleanliness. I mean, there's still sheetrock dust on the ground all over the place. We're still putting up ceiling grids and ceiling tiles. What I would probably like to do is still say we're open on the 29th. I think we can still say we're open. I'm not sure if we'll be ready to take, I think that the appointments could depend upon whether or not what sort of solution we have on the counter, but I think if we can be a little bit more open in terms of our phone calls, our ability to help people re-register cars, to get vitals done, using the Dropbox, basically in a similar way that we've been doing. And then as soon as we can get something on that counter, then we can go back to setting up the appointments. Because partly it's going to take us some time to build up our schedule of appointments once people are starting to look for them, because that really hasn't happened yet. They haven't started to say, well, I'm coming in at 10 o'clock on Monday. We haven't had those, that hasn't happened yet. But we, we can start, at least at the very least, we can start working in there. Right now, everything's still under plastic. The copies are still under plastic. Harriet can't get to her desk because all the filing cabinets are in the way. I hope we're there by the end of Friday that everything's clean and in a spot. But it's going to take some doing to get there for Monday in terms of looking like the type of office we expect it to be. Even if the glass was there, but the glass not being there, it's going to take even more for us to kind of get on the horn with it. So it's, I mean, I thought we'd be further along, truthfully, Wanda. I thought, oh geez, we'll be touch up paint on Tuesday and then away we go, but we're just not close enough.
So my second thought with just looking at your memo is that when we first open, I would love to see like at least one night a week, maybe open till 6, maybe an occasional Saturday hour. We have a lot of people who work, and 8 to 4 does not work. And if you've got cars that need to be registered, and people that are working right now probably are not able to take a lot of time off. And is there any way that we can make some adjustments in the girl schedule? I think that would go a long way to the public. I don't mean it has to be consistent forever, but I think to start with, if we had some kind of, I had one lady tell me that, she works right at the hospital, and she said, I can't even get there during the day because my lunch hour isn't even long enough, to leave my job, get to the town office. 8 to 4 doesn't work if you're working, if you're working most jobs. So I'm hoping that maybe there'll be some flexibility with the staff, because people have been waiting a long time and they're going to want to get in and get this stuff done. And 8 to 4, I just don't think, potentially is going to cut it. And I think that would just be some goodwill in the community if we could do a little bit different hours for a while to really help the community kind of get caught up. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I would fully expect that, we're going to get into it, and I really don't know if we totally know what the beast is going to look like when we get up to it, get up close to it. I think that being able to see what is, I think you said that, like, there's a big pent up demand there for getting these things done. And I also think that being able to come in early, because we have, if we have to, there's some folks who are, have medical issues, or older folks that don't want to come out in the middle of the day. We've seen a lot of that where, folks, they can go grocery shopping earlier in the day and so forth. So I think that's definitely, on the table, because, I mean, there's just so much out there. The only thing I'd add is, also just before, and of course, this is not this situation, but we did change the hours a little more than a year ago, I guess. And what we did is we looked at when people were coming in. And so that's why the hours moved, is because we looked at when people were coming in the door, and our transactions were actually a little bit earlier than what we thought. So when we were the 9 to 5, we moved to 8 to 4 because it better reflected when people were wanting to use the office. And then of course we also got rid of the lunch hour deal too. So I think it's worked. I think the staff feel pretty good about the 8 to 4 in terms of getting the maximum number of people served. But this is a different situation too. So let's see where it goes, and we'll talk about it. If we get to that point where it's we got to look at the whole picture. So.
I'd like to make a motion to formally endorse the memo as the method of operation and procedure, with tweaking and with understandable modifications that'll come as the reopening of the town office unfolds. But for now, I think this is a great starting point, and I think that having this in place in a formal way will give both the town staff and the residents something to look at and understand very clearly. This is how we're doing business for the time being. So I'd like to actually make that motion that we endorse this as a board, and that you come back to us for modifications and tweaks as things change and unfold. So, Joel.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion and second. Do we have any other discussion about the memo about reopening the town, yeah, go ahead, Joel.
I just wanted to say, you know, again, I think the dates, I think that everyone's anxious to get open again, but I would just want to make sure, you know, to defer to the staff and to John as to the method in doing that, in the most effective way and in the safest way possible. Because my number one priority is keeping everyone safe and comfortable. And we have a great staff, and I respect them. And I just want to make sure that their needs are definitely met, and that they feel that we are 100% supporting them. So, yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Wanda?
I just think that when we open, we should at least, you know, we do have a great staff, but we are here for the community, and we are here for the town of Newcastle. And I think having one evening, at least the first few nights, just to, you know, maybe till like 6 or something, we have plenty of staff to be able to do it. John used to be there late. He'd only have to have one person there with him. I just think that, you know, and if it doesn't work, then you just go back. But I think that's important. I think there's a lot of people that are working right now that, you know, potentially are going to have to take time off from work to come in and get a car registered that they haven't been able to do in a long time. And I just think it's important that we give people, you know, a little bit of flexibility to be able to get that done. So.
We'll leave that with John and to talk to Michelle and Shelley and Harriet about.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, you know, at the staff's discretion, what day that might make sense to do that. It's a great suggestion. I would rather take their lead than dictate. So if John can have a conversation with the staff and report back to us about what their thoughts are, I think that's a good suggestion. Carolyn, go ahead.
Or could maybe even John talk to them on, like Wanda said, once it opens, like now it doesn't seem like we're going to open till probably July 6th, because that would be the next Monday, because you guys would be closed July 3rd. So maybe we shoot for the week of July 6th, and maybe just one Saturday, even just from the 8 to 12, and you announcing in the paper for those ones that are having a difficult time. That maybe just the crew, instead of staying, you know, 6 o'clock, because they'll, you know, it goes by their supper or whatever. They just pick one Saturday out of July and August that they just come just to help that a little bit. You know, that might be an idea you could throw just for, you know, one Saturday out of the month of July and the month of August to help everyone catch up. That could be another option you might ask them.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion from it? I think we've heard from everybody. Is that correct?
Stand up.
Yeah. I'm sorry, who? Did I miss
John.
something? John, I'm sorry. You're blending into my background,
Sorry.
man. I can't see.
Sorry. Here.
Go ahead.
Everybody.
Go ahead.
John, don't be shy. Put that hand up.
Hey. So just real quick, in terms of staffing, you know, we're planning to have everyone work obviously the full complement. Hoping Harriet can do more hours. We're going to need, you know, as much help as we can. I still want to avoid overtime. I don't like overtime. I want to get the maximum amount of money we can out of our budget, and a lot of times overtime doesn't do that. We are in a particular, you know, situation here, though, obviously, where we're all doing things we wouldn't normally do. So, you know, this is something that is a special circumstance. So, you know, we will be smart about that, and I'll certainly look at everything. Partly I want to get open and I want to see what we have, and I want to, you know, I kind of just want to feel like, okay, can we capture this? Are we meeting the needs of the of the town? If we aren't, you know, I might say, hey everybody, you know, I think this is the best way to go. But you know, I I want to avoid, paying out a lot of overtime if we can, because I fully believe we're going to be on screech with a clerk and 2 deputies, during their normal hours. I don't see a lot of wiggle room in that, but let's see where we are. And if it ends up being that, there's a lot of that, then, we'll certainly talk about it, and I'll just, talk to you about where, like you said, whether it's a Saturday, whether it's a little bit later hour, maybe it's an earlier hour. The earlier hour stuff is they're there at 7 right now, and they're prepping for the day. Of course, that's all the other stuff, that we need them to do. The Bureau of Motor Vehicles report, and the inventory, and all those, the books. All of that has to be done in those special times. So while I think the phone calls, the emails, the voicemails, I took a screenshot today or actually on Friday of Michelle's email, and it was just voicemail. People are calling. They're definitely leaving messages, and I'm sure it's going to be like tenfold. Once the 29th happens, and whether we're in there and we're open, or what happens with by appointments, people are going to, it's going to go up. And so, can we drink from that fire hose, or are we gonna, maybe we're staring too deep in the mud puddle? I'm not sure. I haven't totally gotten that whole saying figured out, Carolyn. But anyway,
I'll explain it to you.
Thank you. Yeah. But I think the main thing is that fire hose, I think, is going to come at us. And so, if we can't drink from it, then we'll put it in a bowl somewhere else and try to figure out another way to drink something else out.
And John, I just know that, we've all had to step up in this pandemic. I mean, I do things every day that
Right.
I was doing things today that are not my job, but you do what you have to do, and you step up, and if it incurs a little overtime, but it's goodwill with the residents, and in the long run, it may save money, because it may save time and money, because they can get caught up. A little bit of overtime can be spent very well, and be very helpful. And
That's
it's not
good to
that
hear.
much.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I like to avoid those things, but I appreciate hearing that, because if you got to go above and beyond, it's good to hear when you can and when you can't. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay. Good discussion. Unless anybody has anything else to say, we have a motion and a second. We've discussed it. All in favor of endorsing the memo from the town administrator about procedure and policy for reopening the town office? All right. I believe that passed 5-0. So I'm just going to scroll back up here and look. I don't think there's anything else on our agenda at the moment. We don't have any warrants or executive session. So we have decided to call a meeting for a week from tonight at 7 o'clock, the 29th. And we'll have a couple things on that agenda, I guess, at this point, 2 or 3 based on what we talked about when we tabled talking about the road maintenance contract. So
We're just trying to get our money out of you and Carolyn before the 14th.
there was no doubt in my mind that we'd be meeting every single Monday.
Right.
Till July 14th. Every single one.
We do what we have to do.
We all do what we got to do. But I never suspected otherwise. So we got to do what we got to do.
I know,
Right.
but every week Carolyn says I've got 3 more meetings. It keeps continuing.
Yes, right. We keep going on.
The difference is I have to hold this phone up for 2.5 hours. You guys all got laptops or computers, and here I am with my phone holding it up, and I got it to my nose and take a drink, and my phone's going everywhere.
All right. Well,
So,
in order to
I'll do 2 more meetings. You got 2 more meetings out of me.
in order to give
You got to keep them under 2.5 hours.
in order to give
Because my hand gets tired.
without objection, I'm calling the meeting adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.